We're made to live life together. We're made to be in relationship with one another. We are made for community. It's a good thing. But you know that anytime that we're living life together with another, anytime we're living this communal life, anytime that we live intimate life, there are issues, right? Problems arise, situations arise. I mean, just the idea of two people coming together with their backgrounds and understandings, and ways of looking at the world, and the differences of upbringing and ways of doing things, that in itself is quite interesting. And yet we're drawn to one another. And we choose to live life together with this other human being, with this other person. We choose to partner up. And then, in some cases, we choose to have families together and make vows. I'm reminded of that every time that I officiate at a wedding, about how did these two people come together? Why? And often in that time together, getting ready for officiating at someone's wedding, I ask those questions, and every answer is different about why they're together, why they're coming together, and why they want to live life together, and why they want to make covenant. You know, this promise, this ceremony that's really about vows you take to come together and live life together for life. That's a particular heavy type of covenant you make. And it's beautiful, isn't it? It is beautiful. But then at times it fails. In fact, we know that 43% of new marriages will end in divorce at some point, which is it's a number, right? I mean, it's real. So we know a lot of folks around us who have taken a vow to live life forever with this human being before them, and who then, for a plethora of reasons, can no longer live into that vow. So the vow breaks. And it's not easy. And in the church, there have been histories in which then folk who are experiencing divorce then find a certain shame in that in the church. And in some traditions, actually, that's still a big thing. So you cannot be a pastor if you've been divorced or remarried. In some traditions, you cannot even hold office, right, of any type of leadership in the church if you've been divorced and remarried. And so we wonder why, and then we go to the text, like the text we're hearing from today, and this actually comes out of Jesus' own mouth, that if you divorce and are remarried, you're committing adultery. I mean, that kind of blows our 2024 minds. And it should. We're in the middle of a sermon series on when the Bible gets it wrong, and today is divorce and remarriage. And this is a tough one because it's not just when the Bible gets it wrong, but in this case, the Gospels, Jesus' mouth himself says this according to the Gospels. And so we have to do some thinking together about what this might mean for us. I have been married for 22 years. I haven't experienced divorce. I did experience divorce in my family. My parents are divorced, but they divorced when I was an adult. And I do remember those early days from that phone call and how lost I felt, even myself as an adult, the grief that I felt during those moments. And during a number of years after that, the sense of loss that I felt within me. And then seeing what my parents were going through themselves through that process, very difficult process. Maybe you too know that process. Maybe you have divorced, or maybe you're contemplating it. Life is hard. And so we need the church to be a place of hope and joy and possibility and community and support. And what are we to do with this? Well, the first thing we need to remember is that in this ancient world, there were some situations happening around these folk that created this conversation with Jesus. And part of that was that women found themselves in a situation where where they were left with very little support, right? Their husbands could divorce them for any reason. They had the power, and they were left without any way to offset that grievance. And so this easily gotten divorce created a situation where these women were left destitute in this community. And Jesus was not happy with this. Yeah, he said, I know what Moses said, right? The great patriarch of the community, but he wanted a higher standard here. And so he was trying to get those who follow Jesus to have a higher standard, and not just about divorce and remarriage, but about a bunch of other things. And so he's calling to a new standard, a standard that takes seriously not just the covenant that these two people made, but more importantly, the security needed, the way the power struggles were happening, where one, the husband, had so much power that left the other partner in a difficult position. And still to this day, that happens, where one of the partners finds themselves in a lesser financial position when another partner chooses to divorce. And so this, we must take that seriously. The other thing we must take seriously is in light of what we know of the importance of marriage in our society, how are we going to support that? So we shouldn't have shame, about folks who divorce. We should support people and love people and help them find their way again in their circumstance. But also, that doesn't mean we somehow devalue marriage. No, I think we know the importance of marriage in the lives of human beings and the strength of families, two-parent families in our society. And so it is important then that we, on one end, don't easily dismiss marriage, but on the other end, that we don't shame people who go through the struggle and trauma and difficulty of breaking of a relationship, because in the core of that is the protection of human beings. At the core of that is this human being flourishing. And we cannot just take this verse of Scripture out of context, like it has been used in the past to force people, especially women, to stay in difficult situations. We need to speak to one another about what does it mean to be in a healthy, intimate relationship with another human being. What does it look like for two people to come together and have the kind of conversations they need to have together so that they can have a long-lasting partnership? What does it mean when one partner fails to live up to the promises made? And is there a way forward? How do we forgive and reconcile? And how do we find patterns of healthy conversation and life? And all of that are reflections of the good news. A God who calls us to flourish and to forgive, and a God who calls us also to know ourselves and to live into that true self in powerful ways. A God who calls us to be in the world at peace, wholeness, and integrity, pivotal to the way of Jesus. How are we to live that way in the midst of a world that's imperfect, where relationships do break down, where things don't go like they should or like we wish they would? And so as we are looking at this together today, the reason why the Bible gets it wrong, it doesn't get it wrong in the spirit of it, right? In the desire for people who come to covenant making and to promise making to think more deeply about that covenant. It doesn't get it wrong in the sense that certainly we don't want to put partners in situations where they are all of a sudden destitute because of this action by another. It gets it wrong in the way that then this has been lived out, in the shame and the guilt, in the way that often the church still kind of looks at neighbor in a weird way if they're divorced, or the way that in some churches every activity in the church is kind of focused on people who are married, for example. We don't think about the gift of singleness. We don't think about people who are dating. We don't think about people who are in different arrangements together or in different partnerships. And so today, my invitation is for us to look at the spirit of what Jesus was trying to say. Maybe today the higher standard is that we help each other in preparation to make covenant together. We help each other better. We help couples get real about what it means to make promises to each other for life. We help people navigate the difficulties of real relationship. We also help them see that there are moments where the promises are broken, and maybe the best thing for both parties is to let go. This reminds me of that great moment in the forgiveness cycle that Desmond Tutu gives us, which is that there comes a point you either renew or release. So there are moments in our lives, in our intimate relationships, where it's time to release. And God is in that releasing. So what does it look like for us to support each other when it comes to discern the release? And then, what does it look like for us to really help human beings celebrate the ways in which they're in relationship together? So not just in marriage, but in partnership. Not just in partnerships, but in friendships. Not just in friendships, but in their many other familial and non-familiar relationships in their life. What does it look like for us to look at all of the ways in which human beings relate to one another and celebrate those ways, while also recognizing the grief and pain that comes when relationships don't work or when relationships end? Recognizing, in other words, the true humanity that's here before us as we come together in intimate relationship. I'm thankful for marriage. It has transformed my life in so many ways. And we know that marriage matters. But I'm also thankful that we can look at the text and no longer use it to shame other people, but instead we can look at the Spirit and help people in their stories, support them where they are, and help them find new life, abundance, joy, wholeness in the midst of their in the midst of their life, in the midst of their relationships, in the midst of their humanity. See, that's where Jesus meets us. And that's where we then meet each other, so that then all of us together can help sustain one another in this journey that we call life. That's good news indeed. Thanks be to God. Amen.